tonight.
Hi, I'm Gary Coleman. You know, millions of children are born without torsos every year. Please reach out. And people would called in and said, you can't make fun of kids like that, those kids. I'm like, well, there are no kids with no torsos. You can't live without a torso. You've got to organs.
Hey now, smash that subscribe button. Thank you for staying up all night with Bob. Ladies and folks, my guest tonight is a legendary comedian, actor, writer, performer, and in my opinion, frankly, one of the funniest people to ever breathe. He's appeared on stage in the Toronto production of The Producers, and A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum at the Stratford Festival, in Match Game, MADTV, and Last Comic Standing on television, The Debaters on radio, and the popular young adult novel series featuring Hamish X in print. Ladies and gentlemen, king of all media, strap yourselves down. It's Mr. Sean Cullen.
Hey, hello. How are you? It's great to be here.
Blink twice if you're okay.
I'm okay. See, it looks like I'm in probably in an undisclosed location, which I am. I haven't disclosed it.
That's true.
But it's not a threatening situation. I'm fine.
Everything's good. Okay.
He lived by the sea, the dolphin boy, and he loved the dolphins that swam so free.
The very first time I saw you on stage was when you were with Corky and the Juice Pigs, and it was at the now defunct club on Queen West called the Sketchpad.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was weird. That was an attempt by Yuck Yucks to try and corner the sketch market. Yeah, it's now, I forget what it's called, something weird, but it's now like a hard rock, creepy den of music. And it's still there. I don't know what's going on, but
okay. It blew my mind at the time, and I walked away with I think maybe the first sketch you guys did that night completely seared into my memory, and it was you doing the Burgermeister.
Oh my God! Well, the Burgermeister is kind of like a war criminal, a Nazi war criminal who has a children's show and communicates to other hiding war criminals through his children's programming.
Welcome to the Burgermeister
the
Show.
Burgermeister's Village. Welcome to the Burgermeister Show. Yeah, it's a good time.
I've waited 25 years to see that again. Thank you very much. Was there any basis at all in the Burgermeister character from the Rankin Bass shows?
Yeah, from
Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Was that one? Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Yeah, I loved that program as a child, and the word Burgermeister really stuck with me. And I lived in Germany for a little while, in Berlin, and the Burgermeister means mayor, right?
Right.
So master of citizens, Burgermeister. And yeah, it's a weird word, and it always made me laugh. So we went there, and it was pretty fun. Germans are just, so not funny. They're funny.
Goodbye, good luck, and good riddance.
How long? So I don't know what year that was, but let's say it was the early 90s. At what year were you guys asked to go do MADTV?
Geez, I think it was around 1995. A friend of ours, Brian Hart, who was a writer and also did some performing on the Kids in the Hall show for HBO and for CBC. He became the head writer of Mad TV and then became the executive producer. And he brought us down to do songs. And first thing we did was Only Gay Eskimo, which we'd probably be murdered for doing that.
I go out seal hunting with my best friend Tarka, but all I want to do is get into his parka. I'm the only gay Eskimo in my tribe.
But so many people talked to me about, that being on that show and how much they loved it. We did a bunch of different parody songs. And we did one Send Up of Meatloaf called Too Fat to Rock and Roll. We did another one for REM called I'm Here. And it was just stupid. We did a parody visually of Losing My Religion.
Right.
And so it was, pumpkin. We had a pumpkin falling it was dumb, but it was very fun, and people really responded to it. It was back when, you know, there were still music videos on television, and Canada's video station was Much Music, and we did two videos. One was called "The Pandas Must Die," it was a ska song about, you know, why pandas are worthless and we should kill them all. And the other one was REM, which was great. It was really, really well done. I mean, MADTV was so brilliant. There was such amazing talent on that show. And we did I think about 6 or 7 episodes, and we ended up, you know, the cast would go like, why are we bringing these people in? We can do musical parodies. And so eventually we were not doing them anymore, but a lot of people saw it. So that was good.
You mentioned The Only Gay Eskimo and whether or not you'd be able to do that now. And I've had Mark McKinney here a couple times. I know that when they were doing the reboot of Kids in the Hall for Amazon last year, there were sketches, words, things, even reboots of old things that they had done before, whatever, probably including running F.
Yes.
running F word.
Running free, running fast.
If you were 21 now and starting out again, would you have an easier or harder time of it in this environment? Not that you guys were doing a lot of edgy, offensive stuff, but on the whole.
Well, we were on the edge of being offensive. I don't think we were, like, if you really listen to what we were saying, it wasn't really, like, for example, once we did this thing on television where we said, I used to do these phony PSAs where I'd say, hi, I'm Gary Coleman. Please give generously. You know, millions of children are born without torsos every year. The number is growing. Please reach out, give us some money. And people would call in and said, you can't make fun of kids like that, those kids. I'm like, well, there are no kids with no torsos. You can't live without a torso. You've got organs. And that's the kind of thing we were not making fun of the kids with their torsos. We're making fun of the trope of a PSA.
Right.
And we tried to do that. And I don't know. I see, the thing is, the way comedy's done now, and I've been trying to figure it out because I don't want to be irrelevant, but I just think that people aren't deeply, they're more politically aware, let's say, but in a different way. Like, they're not deeply educated about situations. They're specifically cued or triggered by certain things. And I find when I watch young comics now, like, I used to watch comics and you'd go because they were funny, and you'd see them craft jokes and build a set that went, you know, here. You'd see this crafted thing, and it came from an older tradition, from like vaudeville and all that stuff. And not that I'm like a vaudeville performer, but I can kind of think I'm more of a cabaret performer. Like, I do a lot of different things in my act, but it doesn't seem like you seem to see kids, I'm going to say, younger comics coming onto the scene, just telling you things you already know are true and you can't disagree with.
Right.
And that's the funny part, right? Or like, and to me, that's just like the easiest. Like, I saw one person of color doing a joke about, you know, white people just have no soul. Like, you know, they can't, like, Aretha Franklin's got soul, you know, and Liam Gallagher doesn't have any soul. I'm like, it's so old and dumb that I can't even say how bad it is. But the audience feels like they have to go, yeah, yes,
right,
all right, that's true. The truth has been told. You're like, no. I mean, you don't think Mozart has soul, or, you know, it's not the same. I don't want to sound like an old white guy who's like, oh, everybody's out to get me.
Right.
Saying, like, it's not very clever and it's not very creative. It's just obvious, like, and a bit lazy to me. That's all.
Yeah, I do know what you mean, where a lot of it is there's an attitude there, there's an opinion, but not necessarily, particularly like in the example you've just given, there's no joke there.
No.
There's no actual joke, right?
There's just agree with me and laugh, or you're an asshole. And I'm like, well, you've got to work harder than that. like, or I feel like I had to work harder than that to do my job. Like, I wouldn't be satisfied at that level of it. I'd like to, I don't know. What I like to do is, I like to improvise a lot, but what I like to do is dig holes that you think this is impossible to get out of, and then have the audience watch you crawl out of it, and that is the joy. And it's difficult. I'd like to think it's difficult. I just think there should be more to it. There should be more craft, not just intention. If that makes any sense.
You said you're not a vaudevillian, but you invoked it, and I think that there's something to that, because I always saw you as a real kind of old timey, in the best possible way, show business guy. Like, here's a performer. Here's Jackie Gleason. Let's segue from that into the dearly departed Sean Cullen show. So this was in the early 2000s, and I was at a number of the tapings because I was quite pally. I knew you a little bit at the time, but I was quite pally with Jason and Ryan Belleville, who were essentially the Waldorf and Statler. Was that it?
Yeah.
Of the show. Can you describe what that show was? To me, it was a kind of a Pee-wee's Playhouse of a sitcom, and I just loved that world.
Well, my idea was I loved shows like, and I listened to them a lot on Sirius XM. Has got old time radio shows,
right?
And those kind of translated into television shows in the early days of television. It was all live, and it happened in front of a live audience, and I loved shows like Jack Benny and Burns and Allen, and shows like that where you go, well, here's a house, or it's very prosaic. Like, here's a house. Let's see how weird things can go in what's pretty much just a basic human house. And we had a guy who lived in a guy named God. Why am I forgetting everybody's name today? I really think I'm dying.
Well,
but Winston Spear, a great comic, very funny, physical, brilliant mind. We had him in a trapdoor in the floor, and he would live down there, and he'd just come up and say things.
Hey, everybody, look who it is!
It's Winston, the cellar dweller.
So, Winston, how's everything going in the cellar?
Good, except for mostly everything.
Like, there were elements of laughing. It was kind of, I wanted it to be like anything could happen in this place, and the only kind of consistent thing is me, and we had a house band, and it was my house. And we had characters in the house. We had a woman who lived in the, a kind of a woman from the 50s, like a housewife with a weird son who scared me. And they lived in the kitchen.
Have a seat, Sean.
Oh, I'm okay. I'll stand.
Come on, pull up a chair.
I'll be fine.
Park it, mister!
Kitchen. We had an evil woman next door who was set on killing me.
I have failed to destroy you this time, Sean Cullen. You may have won the battle, but I will win the war. Not the hair, never the hair!
And but it was all within this kind of like, oh, golly, it's great to have everybody here on the show.
Yeah.
And just make it really strange. And people generally were really angry about the show. Like people, I remember going into, after the first season, we only did 6.
Right.
And I had to write it all because, in Canada, you don't get any money unless you write the show, produce it, and then get paid to act in it. So I did all of that. And it was a lot of work, and I probably wasn't good enough. But the kernel of it was so weird and fun for me. And they were just like, what? I went into the head of CBC at the time after the show and said, it's supposed to be funny, right? Like, isn't a comedy supposed to be funny? And
this is what they said to you in that meeting.
Yeah. I said, well, that's harsh.
What is this? Holy crap, where's Chandler? This thing sucks.
It's the worst episode of My Two Friends' Dads I've ever seen.
This is not funny. It's not funny, haha. It's more like funny that dog's got a breast for an eye. Funny, weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it is funny. if you don't find it funny, that actually encourages me because you're not funny. There's nothing about you that has any experience in the world of comedy. So good. But they didn't, pick it up for others. I said, well, we can revamp it. They said, no, we're not going to do anything more.
After all that sweet talking you did?
Oh, and I was just like, oh, no, I just said, oh, I was just completely depressed and sad about it because it was like, oh, I really blew it. But as I look back at it now, a lot of what we were doing, now it's commonplace. Like the kind of self-referential weirdness,
Right.
is everywhere. And it was, just something I was doing already. But it was just, Canada could not handle it. Like it was not like talking about the prime minister or, whatever.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't politically based. The thing about Canadian comedy that I find, and this is something I've observed, is Canadian audiences like to know the joke before it's actually spoken. So they can feel like they have a great sense of humor because they know what the joke is or is going to be. So that's what they think funny is. And for me, that's awful. So when you I love baskets. Because it's human and funny and just bizarre. And I don't understand why something like The Office, which became huge in America too, the American version, but it was shot at the BBC in offices that were empty. And it was just somebody's brilliant mind and bargain basement shooting, a very simple idea. That's the kind of thing we should be making.
Number 1, what's the best brand of soup from a can?
I'd say, well, Campbell's Chunkies. Oh, no, I got to say Baxter's Cullen Skink. It's from Britain. It's a weird potato soup. It's good.
Number 2, can you swim? And if so, what's your best stroke?
Well, I can swim. I won't sink. I'd say I do breaststroke most.
Yeah, I would say that's probably me as well. Number 3, how many televisions do you currently own?
3.
And what is the largest screen size?
55 inches.
We had a 60-inch blow on us right after Thanksgiving, and I brought a 40-inch down from the bedroom. And it kind of fits into the living room a little bit better. I sort of like not having a huge screen down there.
Yeah.
I know, fascinating. Number 4, best movie you saw in the past year?
In the past year, I can't think of all movies. I only just got to see Jojo Rabbit, and that really, I know it's old, but I only seen it this year, and it was fantastic. Like Sam Rockwell should have won an Oscar for that role. And everybody in it was tremendous. Like I just couldn't say a bad thing about it.
What was the first concert you ever saw?
Well, first musical performance, I went to see the Irish Rovers with my mother at the Memorial Center in Peterborough. So I guess that would have been the first concert.
I think that counts. That's that's pretty fun, actually. I love, when I was a little kid, I loved the Irish Rovers. They were on TV all the time.
Oh, with the little, they did those weird Bun Warrior, the Twerp, and Me, the little tiny, made them tiny, and they were leprechauns. It was fun.
I asked him to travel very light because the balloon couldn't take all that weight, and he did. Thank you, Bun.
You're more than welcome.
Twerp! It's a good lad.
Here he comes.
Who's the first comedian you ever saw live?
Gee, live. I never went to comedy at all, right? Until I started doing it. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty much. Ooh, God, maybe Jim Mcaleese?
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, if you're talking like big time comedian, I guess the one that really struck me was Eddie Izzard. And I saw him in Edinburgh at a really small theater, and it was called the Bank House or something like that. And he was amazing, but it was before he was, what he is now. He was kind of a dumpy, just wearing like a plaid shirt, not really looking, like what he is now, so glamorous. but he was so funny and brilliant. Yeah.
I would compare you favorably with him. I think I've made that connection before because not just partly because of your physicality and the way that the stream of consciousness seem to work. And now his may be more scripted. I don't know. I've seen you go into circles of circles of circles, and like you said, how's he gonna come back? And you're masterful at that. But I nonetheless. But I saw him at same thing. Oh, gee, many years ago. I think it was around the time Dressed to Kill was probably around, and it was maybe Bathurst Street Theater. It was a converted church. Yeah, and agreed. One of the best shows I ever saw, though.
Brilliant.
Who was your first childhood crush movie star?
Movie star
or TV or anybody? It could have been Pat Benatar. I don't know.
I don't know. God, but when I'm thinking back, oh, I know who it was. Do you ever see Space 1999?
Sure.
Catherine Schell, who was the woman who could change shapes. She was an alien who you'd go into her eye, like the camera would iris into her eyeball, and then you'd see something, and she'd turn into that, like an owl or whatever. But she was hot, and she was beautiful. I loved her.
We're going to rank these Seans.
Rank these Seans.
We got 4 Seans. Number 1, Sean Connery. Number 2, Sean Penn. Number 3, former Saints head coach Sean Patrick Peyton. And number 4, Sean Bean, late of Game of Thrones.
Oh, gee. Well, Sean Connery would be number 1. I think he was amazing, and of another era. Like when you look at the old James Bonds, it's, a different time where he would punch a woman and knock her out. It wasn't really cool. But there's something about him that's just... No one until I think Daniel Craig ever had that dangerous, terrifying, but charming. Like you could see there was violence underneath this calm, urbane exterior, and so I and his eyes and everything. Like he and what do you call it? The Man Who Would Be King, and
my God, how fabulous is that?
It's a great movie, and so many, like everything he did, like The Rock, like even the schlocky baloney, it was always really, he had so much gravity and weight in every performance. Like there was something about him that was just so compelling. And I think, okay, so who is the next one? Sean, the football player is going to be number 4, I think.
Okay, Sean Patrick Payton.
Football coach.
We've got Sean Bean and Sean Penn.
Well, I really love Sean Bean. He gets killed a lot, but he's always the best. Like I loved the Sharps series he did, and he was great as the villain in it was the first or the second movie with James Bond film with Pierce Brosnan, and he was
was it Tomorrow Never Dies?
Yeah, and he's like a Cossack or something like that, but used to be a 00, and now he's an evil.
Oh, that's Goldeneye. That's the first one with Pierce Brosnan. Yeah, because there's a I remember in the cold open to that one. It's him and in the pre-credit sequence. It's him and Brosnan, and he thinks Sean Bean dies at the beginning. Do you remember this? And then he's not dead. No. Yeah. But
doesn't he have no nerve? No, that's never mind. That's Robert Carlisle.
Oh, anyway, that's Die Another Day.
Yeah. So and then Sean Penn, I like him a lot. I think he's a great actor, a bit of a nutcase, but fun. And he's done some great films. He's really an actor. He seems a bit crazy, but who isn't? So that's my Sean's.
There you go. I agree with you. I think we watched my partner Annie had actually, I don't think she'd ever seen Fast Times from beginning to end, and we watched it a couple weeks ago. And even then, even that character, as I don't know, Sean Penn's probably no older than 20 or 21. He is so. It's a surfer stoner, but he inhabits that character so fully. You absolutely believe him.
You're just having some learn about history, having some food. Just the best. Mr. Hand.
Mr. Hand. The a fabulous character actor. I can't believe I'm coming up blank on this. Ray Walston.
Ray Walston, so good.
Some food. Mr. Spicoli, you're on dangerous ground here. You're causing a major disturbance on my time.
I've been thinking about this, Mr. Hand. If I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time?
Here we go. Oliver Hardy and Lou Costello have a fist fight. Who wins?
Oh, well, I think Lou Costello, because he had a lot more anger than Oliver Hardy ever would have had. I don't think Oliver would have given up, but I think eventually he might have had a heart attack. Both were very poor, had poor health, but I think there's an edge to Lou that would have put him over the top in a fist fight.
I don't know. I feel like Lou Costello might wear himself out, and if Oliver Hardy can just kind of hang in there again, he might
hang in there, wait for his moment.
Just wait for his moment. Alan Travolta played Ellen Travolta. I think John's mother. Ellen Travolta played Scott Baio's mom on 2 different television programs. What were they?
Scott Baio's mom. So would it have been Happy Days?
You're close.
Oh, not Joni Loves Chachi.
Joni Loves Chachi is one of them.
And would it be? He wasn't. He did a later show. God, I keep mixing him up with Tony Danza.
Well, you're understandably, because they were in contemporaneous shows with similar premises.
Well, the one was She's the Boss. Is it She's the Boss was
that was the Danza.
Tony Danza. I don't know.
Charles in Charge.
Charles in Charge. Oh God, so bad.
I don't even remember what he was in charge of. Sean Cullen, thank you so much. Is there anything coming up that you want to plug especially? Or are you working on what's the next? Where are we going to see you next?
During the pandemic, I used to do a character who was a kind of a priest who had found a lost gospel and he wanted to share it. And so I got all the stories together and published them. It's called The Book of Justin. And it's about a guy named Justin who tells his own version of Jesus' life, but from a kind of, because he followed the other apostles around at kind of a stone's throw distance because they would throw stones at him. So he really got the story correct. So it's a different take, and it's got little illustrations. You can get it at on Amazon, Book of Justin, or you can get it at freezenpress.com. So
fabulous.
Give it a
Oh, I'm really sorry I haven't read that yet. I'm gonna get myself a copy. That sounds like fun.
Thank you.
I enjoy your work immensely, sir. I remain a fan, and I look forward to seeing you again in person at some point in the not too distant future. And I hope when you're in LA, we can have breakfast or something.
When I'm released.
When you're out of the
When I'm released, I will come and we'll have breakfast.
Put a candle in the window.
Please.
Yeah. All right. God bless you. Good night.
God bless you.
Hey now, if you're still here, you obviously like the show. Please do hit that like, subscribe, leave us a comment, tell your friends. I know it's a cliche, but it's a YouTube show. Good night, everybody.